Hello. How are we doing today on a Wednesday night? I hope you guys are all doing well. My name is Chris. This is Scott. We are your hosts for the Action Lab. How's everyone doing tonight? Scotty, we are here on a Wednesday. We're halfway through the week, and we have some big stuff going on this week. There's something called the NFL Draft going on tomorrow, I think.
We are, not that I'm keeping track, but something like that. I think we're about 22 and a half or so hours away from the start of the first round of the NFL Draft. I love draft season. Can't wait to do our show that we're going to do and live stream coverage of the entire first round tomorrow night. Really, really excited for that show. I know we put a lot of work into that and hope it's going to be enjoyable for you guys. So make sure you guys tune in to our special show tomorrow. But tonight we're going to cover some draft coverage. We're going to do our mock draft a little later, and we got some other NFL news. But there is some other sports going on that we want to talk about at the top.
Yeah, we'll start out with our normal news rundown. We have a few topics here. Normally, I would say it's kind of a slower week, and we could dive right into our mock draft. But there was some things happening in the world of sports across the country, even locally here.
I was going to say, locally.
We might
two big stories locally.
This might be similar to our normal our normal Sunday show with all of the different local stories. But hey, it is what it is. We got to cover it all. So here's here's the situation. We're on Twitch, we're on Facebook, and we're on YouTube. We're on all three platforms. So if you're here and you're watching, make sure you hit us up on all three of those platforms, and we will make sure that you guys are fully entertained by everything we have to bring you here. Now, I want to just give a quick shout out. Steven in Facebook chat, he actually followed offline. So appreciate Steven for the follow in Facebook. Thank you so much. And then hopefully we can get more of you here in the Action Lab in the next day or so we can cover this huge draft tomorrow. And, you get all those notifications every time you hit that follow button, when we go live. So tomorrow, I believe we're going on around, I don't know, the draft starts around 6 o'clock Mountain Time. So we're probably going to go a little bit ahead of that, depending on, Scott and myself and what we decide, once everything's kind of ready and up and running for tomorrow's stream. But we're hoping to hopefully get on maybe a half hour before. But again, if you're following, you'll know exactly when we go live. So make sure you're hitting that follow button.
Yeah, we'll try and definitely get on, but we promise we'll be on for sure throughout the entire first round, which is going to be our longest show ever. Like, we've had some long ones, but tomorrow is going to be our longest. Like, I'm going to need some Red Bulls. I'm going to need some energy. I don't know how many bathroom breaks I'm going to need to take, but I'm excited to cover the draft. I love the draft.
It's a marathon.
Even though my team doesn't even have a pick in the first round now.
It's a marathon, and you know what? As far as everything goes, it's probably going to go by fast. I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden we blink and everything is over, that quickly. So we're excited to be on for extended hours with you guys, and we're going to bring a freaking fun show for you guys as well. So so absolutely. Let's dive in, though. We have a lot to cover, and we have all of our mock draft to get to. So we're going to dive right in. And then if you guys are here, feel free to chime in with all the chat, whether you're on any one of those three platforms that we're live streaming to. Make sure that you throw in all your comments, all your insights, your thoughts, your hot takes, and we love to see all of those because, it keeps that conversation rolling no matter what we're talking about. So let's dive in. We have our news rundown, and we have a lot to talk about here. Starting with some big news in Major League Baseball, i.e. the Colorado Rockies locally here. Now, if you haven't heard, there was some big news going on with the Colorado Rockies. The Rockies have, not fired. I guess fired isn't exactly the right term here because
mutually agreed
to part ways. So Jeff Bridich steps down as the GM of the Colorado Rockies. They said it was a mutual agreement. Bridich joined the organization in 2004, rose through the ranks. He was named Senior Director of Baseball Operations in 2006. later held the position of Senior Director of Player Development, and then he was promoted to General Manager in October 2014. So he's been around quite a bit. Made the postseason 2017, 2018 under Bridich, handling, but the handling of former Rocky Nolan Arenado was kind of one of the things that really, solidified some of these changes in what people were thinking about management and everything along those lines. Now, Greg Fiesel, who on Monday was appointed as team president, in addition to his role in charge of the club's business operations, will oversee baseball operations. So that's going to be kind of what's happening as a result of him stepping down, Jeff Bridich stepping down. So the Rockies will name a new interim general manager for the rest of the season before searching for a new general manager in the 2021, after 2021. So that's where we're at with this. There's a lot with this one, but still a lot of big decisions to be made. Trevor Story, his contract is going to be something that we'll need to take a look at because he's set to become a free agent at the end of the season. John Gray will also be a free agent. Fiesel is in his 26th season with the team. He's been in the executive vice president and chief operating officer role since 2010. So he's been around for a little bit. But Scotty, you're closest to this. What do you think about everything that went down on the Colorado Rockies side of things?
Well, listen, first of all, this was a surprise for, I think, most people in the organization. We honestly got an email about, around 11 a.m. on Monday saying, hey, join this Zoom meeting in about 30 minutes at 11:30. We need everyone on. And no clue what it was. Didn't expect that. But they announced that he was stepping down as general manager, Bridich was, and that, Greg Fiesel was going to be named president of the Colorado Rockies, and then now the new GM. The main difference with that, I think, and not that I'm fully aware, is that before, Bridich was reporting directly to Dick Monfort, the owner, and now whoever the interim is, and we'll see depending on the hire of the new GM, that person's going to report to Greg Fiesel. Fiesel, everyone, Fiesel's not a baseball guy. He's a business guy. Been with the Rockies a long time. Done a good job there. Everyone, he's not going to be the GM. Everyone's a little confused on that. He's going to be a guy that helps appoint and really frees up time for Dick to do some of his other things that he needs to do, and is what I think is happening there. But interim wise, it'll be, I'm sure, an internal candidate. There's probably 4 guys I can think of right now that could potentially be named interim GM. Names that are either Zach Rosenthal, Zach Wilson, both assistant general managers, along with John Weil, who's also a GM, and then Bill Schmidt, who's a VP, but he's a head of scouting and kind of head of the draft and stuff like that. So we'll see. I haven't heard anything. We'll see who they appoint. I think that'll happen rather quickly, and then in the off season we'll have a search crew, or look out and hopefully look externally. I think, me personally, and most people that are Rockies fans would like to see an external hire. Nothing against the guys internally. I just think new viewpoint and someone that's not within the mind frame of what's happened here before, that necessarily hasn't obviously brought a World Series or a division first in the division through their history. I haven't heard anything outside of reports on the internet, like Thad Levine, who's now currently the general manager for the Minnesota Twins. Years ago, worked for the Rockies, got his head start with the Rockies before he headed to the Rangers, and then became the GM for the Minnesota Twins. So I hear there might be interest there. I don't know whether that's true or not. But ultimately, there was a lot of pressure locally here. If you haven't been around here, on both, the fans after that Nolan trade wanted Bridich out, and they wanted new ownership, and with the Monforts leaving. The Monforts aren't leaving. They're not. That's not going to happen. You can wish, you could do whatever you want. That's not going to happen. And Bradich leaving, I don't know the details for sure about what happened with that, but I don't think it was a firing. I don't. I think it was a decision that was made, and that Bradich was maybe worn down. When you get constant feedback with you towards yourself, and your family sees that, like, that can wear on you. When everyone's wearing, one of our pictures here is a Fire Bradich shirt, like, that wears on a person. So there's a lot of pressure in being a general manager and a professional sports team that comes with the territory. And unfortunately, we're at a stage right now where the Rockies don't have the roster that a lot of people would like. So, I think Bradich got a bad rep as far as, I think the media pegs him as this arrogant person. I don't know that he is that way. Once you get to know him, not that I have a close relationship with him, but I don't think he actually is that arrogant guy. I think he's a confident person, which I think as a GM you need to be. You need to know your plan and this and that. And unfortunately, his plan, whether, it didn't work out, or, he wasn't able to do some of the things he wanted to do, I don't know. But ultimately, he's moving on. The Rockies are moving on. We'll see what comes from it in the future. But a lot of other things going on with the Rockies right now, with getting ready for the All-Star game and stuff like that in a couple months here. So a lot going on at the office, but this was a surprise for pretty much most of us.
Yeah, and then Greg Fiesel, who was appointed on Monday as team president. I think he's another one that I'm. You mentioned he's not a baseball guy. He's more of a business opportunity kind of situation where he just takes advantage of business, right? That's what his strength is. So I'm curious to see how long. He's been with the organization quite a bit. I don't know if necessarily keeping some of these guys that have been here a while, like we've seen what everything looks like, with some of these guys who aren't baseball guys. I would love for us to go out and get somebody externally, as opposed to keeping some of these guys around that are, maybe we just need some fresh perspectives from some baseball minds here in Colorado. So, seeing Greg Fiesel get promoted, I think that was kind of an interesting one there. I think it's fine. I think eventually probably getting somebody else in there.
To be perfectly honest on the Fiesel thing, like, he's been a de facto without the title president, in my opinion, with the Rockies for quite a few years now. So to me, it doesn't change a lot outside of it's more of an official title where, I think it was pretty clear, like, yes, he was a VP along with a lot of other VPs we had, but he stood above those as, kind of Dick's right-hand man. Some may see that as not a good thing, that he's been promoted, but the reality is he's kind of been in that position in a de facto way for a while.
Yeah. So we'll see how this ends up panning out the rest of the season here. Rockies, they're up and down now. We kind of talked on the Sunday show that they needed to have a big week this week. They got a big win yesterday. I think they lost the previous one, I believe. So
we won't talk about 2 days ago, but first road win yesterday in extra innings.
Pretty big. So, hey, hopefully we can keep it rolling. But on to the next one, though. We have a new TV deal for the NHL. And I think when I first saw this come through, I was like, okay, this is something that is fine. But then you realize that the NHL has kind of had some issues with a lot of the television deals that, they've kind of been in and out of. And a lot of times, NHL, it's hard to find some games that nowadays on regular TV that you're just, constantly trying to search through. But now Turner Sports did sign a 7-year deal with the NHL. Now, Turner Sports and the NHL have reached a 7-year agreement beginning in the 2021-22 season that includes the Winter Classic, 3 Stanley Cup Finals. The deal is worth $225 million annually, ends the NHL's 16-year relationship with NBC Sports. So, usually that's where you see those. NBC Sports Network is a lot of the hockey coverage. The league previously signed a 7-year deal that made ESPN its primary rights holder starting next season. But Turner Sports will present up to 72 regular season games. Half of the first 3 Stanley Cup playoffs rounds each season. The Stanley Cup will air on TNT in the years in which Turner Sports carries it, marking the first time the championship round will air exclusively on cable. The Stanley Cup final will appear on ABC in the years in which ESPN airs it. So you have it kind of back and forth on a couple of these, but hey, do you think we'll get our boys Chuck and everybody talking some hockey here? We get them talking about some NCAA. We get them talking about NBA. Who knows? We got them. We might get Charles in there. He doesn't know much about hockey, but I feel like, hey, get those boys back on the train there.
I don't think on a permanent basis you'll see any of the NBA crew that you know and love on Turner on TNT cover NHL. But that's why I'm excited about this deal, though, is that Turner obviously, like, I don't know about you, but when the Nuggets are on national TV, I'm definitely more excited when they're playing on TNT versus ESPN, because TNT, I know I'll have, Chuck and Shaq and Charles and that crew just to cover especially the post game. Love watching it. Like, they are such an entertaining crew that they found there. So that's what I'm excited about, that hopefully Turner can take that and find some personalities that fit the NHL theme and take that and make something as entertaining as what the NBA and Turner has offered for many years now. Like, I don't know who those people are. Hopefully they're out there in hockey. I don't know. But ultimately, let's be honest, this is going to, between ESPN and Turner, this is going to reach more eyeballs now.
Oh.
I don't think, NBC Sports, I don't think all of the like streaming options offer NBC Sports in their like basic pack. But everybody has TNT. If you have a streaming network or cable, basic cable, like you have TNT, you have ESPN, a lot more eyeballs are going to start watching hockey. This is going to, with the ESPN deal, obviously, they'll start, covering hockey a little more now that, it's in their interest to build the interest up on not just, when they cover the games, but also Sports Center and different shows like that. So this is good for hockey, I think, ultimately with Turner and ESPN. I think that's a good combination. We'll see where they take it. Let's hope they can get some personalities on there that work really well. But ultimately, I think this is a great deal for hockey. Overall, I think ESPN's paying $400 million, so it's $625 million. Great for hockey, and hopefully builds the sport, and we just watch our Avs win countless Stanley Cups in the next few years.
Yeah, man, that would be ideal, right? You could get them all on national television. We don't have to worry about trying to scour the internet to try to figure out how we can watch these games. And yeah, it's going to be great. I think, definitely even, TNT has come up with that secondary crew where, there's games of they have, Dwayne Wade and, a couple other of those panelists on there that break down the games as well. So a couple different, I think it's worth it to have some big names that you'll recognize on those seats there. And it's going to really boost the ratings for the NHL. I feel like the NHL, because based off of the fact you don't know where to find them, I can barely find some NHL games throughout the week because it's just, you just don't know what channel they're going to be on. NBC Sports, again, like you mentioned, is not always available on all packages when it comes to Comcast or Dish or whatever networks. You have to pay extra for some of those sports channels that don't come regularly, and people aren't going to pay. If you're not a sports person, you're not going to pay for those. You're going to just leave those off, and then maybe other people in your family won't be able to. So this will be big, and I think it's a huge deal. I'm excited to watch more hockey. I've gotten into more hockey over the last 3 or 4 years. I've been off the bandwagon a little bit, but I've really come back in, and it's going to be fun to see it all. So next on our list, we have a big fight coming up on June 6th. So Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul are going to be battling it out in an exhibition bout here in June. Now, this one, you get the Paul brothers, who aren't exactly the most liked guys out there. But this is a big deal in a sense that you were able to lure Floyd Mayweather to return back to the ring to face, Logan Paul at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami on June 6th, that's going to be a big stadium. They're going to have a lot of people there, I would think. The announcement didn't specify how many rounds they will fight or what size gloves they will use, or additional details are still kind of being etched out. So that's going to be, figured out soon. The undercard hasn't exactly been figured out either. But Mayweather coming into this fight 50-0, 27 KOs. He's 44. He's retired after defeating Conor McGregor by the 10th round TKO in a boxing match in 2017. So he hasn't exactly been in the mix in a while. So he's a little aged. He's up there. But Logan Paul is 0-1. One fight under his belt, 26 years old, a lot younger. His older brother Jake Paul, who recently defeated Ben Askren by first round knockout, was in the mix a little last weekend. So Logan Paul lost a split decision to fellow YouTuber star KSI, whose real name is Olige William Olantuji.
You nailed that name.
I think nailed it. In November 2019. So, I mean, this is Logan Paul. I don't even know what to think about this, right? Because Logan Paul is 0-1 against a fellow YouTuber. I don't know.
Is this a real fight?
No. it is and it isn't.
I mean, like Floyd Mayweather is 50-0, one of the greatest boxers of all time. If right up there with anyone else as far as record in his paydays. This just seems like a payday for him, and he's basically said, "Hey, Logan, I will not knock you out in the first few rounds. We'll just kind of go back and forth and just jab a little bit and for a few rounds, and then I might knock you out after that." And Logan's like, "I can do that if the payday is good." And Mayweather's like, "Of course the payday is going to be good." Like, this fight is going to suck. But people are going to watch. Like, Logan, these Paul brothers have somehow like reinvigorated boxing somehow and I don't know the appeal. I don't watch these guys. I don't listen to these guys. I don't know the appeal of these Paul brothers and why people care so much outside of like the first fight. I remember, Jake Paul knocking out Nate Robinson. That was kind of cool, but I'm like, all right, he's just knocking out a little former NBA player, like whatever. And now he boxing retired, like out of way out of weight boxer that's past his prime and took him down. But I don't know. This just doesn't seem like, it seems like there's a mutual agreement of like how the fight's gonna go. It almost feels a little more WWE to me than actual boxing. So I don't know. I would not pay for this fight. I've paid. My biggest regret was paying for the Mayweather. What was it? Mayweather Pacquiao fight. That was the most boring fight I've ever seen in my life, and I haven't seen a ton of them. But man, that one was bad. Like, Mayweather was just on the defensive. Like, he wasn't forcing the issue, and he's just like, I know I can outbox you by just doing this. And he did. He won. But man, it was not entertaining. And he didn't care. He's like, give me that paycheck.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's just all clown, like, PR and trying to get big, right? You try to get in and make a big hype over, what these guys are trying to put in place. Like, they're just YouTube guys, right? They have the money. They can throw it around. They built all their stardom through all these social media channels. And then once they had the money, they can just do whatever they want, right? You can just make whatever fights, just start throwing it out there. And here's the thing. People hate the Paul brothers more so than anybody else. So the only reason people are going to be watching these fights is because they want to see Logan get knocked out. Jake is next on that list. He recently was in that last fight with Ben Askren, and people were like, "Come on, man! I want to see you get knocked out too." They're just trying to create these fights against people who aren't boxers, or in this case, he is a boxer. Mayweather is a very decorated career in boxing, but he's like past his prime. Like, what's the point? Why is this a thing? So I think it's just they're just trying to figure out ways to like slowly work their way up the ladder to just get bigger paydays in the boxing ring. I don't think this is. It's all just clown stuff, in my opinion. I actually have a boxing buddy who I was trying to reach out to over the course of this past week to try to get his thoughts on it, because he follows all the. I mean, he gets the Mexican boxers and the up and comers and all the different weight class. He knows all of them, and I just want to get his opinion on all this stuff. Maybe we'll have him on a show as a guest one day, and we'll kind of have a breakdown of boxing. But yeah, I will not touch this, even based off of people are still pissed that they paid for that Jake Paul Askren fight. That lasted.
Yeah, which they only have themselves to blame.
So
like if you paid for that, that's your own fault.
So it's rough. Mayday, welcome back in chat. Good to see you back, my friend. F the Cardinals. They hit Bryce in the face, and then next batter hit Didi in the kidney. Who has kidney issues? Side note: Phillies lead 4-3.
I saw your post there, Mayday. So I checked out the Bryce hit in the face, and yeah, they hit him in the face. Like it didn't even ricochet off anything. Like it wasn't like it hit it. You know, he almost tried to block it with his arm, couldn't get it up in time. Right off the cheek, right off the cheekbone there. So. Hopefully Bryce is okay. You don't want to see that. And yeah, I hope the Phillies win that game for sure.
Yeah. So that's all we got here for this one. Let's go ahead and move on to our next big topic of today. So next we have kind of a big story that came out towards the end of the weekend, and this was Julio Jones. Now, Julio Jones is on the trading block by the Atlanta Falcons. And so here's some story behind this. Reports surfaced Monday that Atlanta could be trading its star wide receiver this offseason. Falcons reportedly were receiving active calls from several teams, listening to offers from what seems to be more of a cap-oriented situation. Now, the Falcons are in a horrible cap shape. They can't even sign their own draft picks without doing something, which is saying something just in general right there, because draft picks are usually where you can save money, for your team by getting nice young studs, and you can't even pay those guys. So they're in some issues. This could be a great deal, yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation for them. Mayday, did you see my message? Yeah, I saw your message. We just acknowledged it here a little bit ago. Scotty said he may have caught that. So, yeah, we're here with you, Mayday. We heard you.
We got you.
I think our stream actually. So, keep in mind, sometimes our stream has those options to make it so that you can, downgrade your latency to try to get a better viewing experience. But during high times when there's a lot of streams going on, since we're not affiliated with Twitch yet, we don't have those options readily available to us. So that means we need more followers, which means you guys hit that follow button and help us out with that so we can start bringing you this content all the time. But yeah, no, Mayday, we got you, man. We love you. So going back to the Falcons. Now, the Falcons, if the Falcons trade after June 1st, Julio Jones, let's see, where is it? It would be a $23 million cap hit. Currently, if they trade him after June 1st, they save $15 million against the cap. So they have a couple different options. It's not in their best interest to move him right away. It's going to be something that's going to happen down the line, but it's still in the works because they don't really have much to work with. In 2019, Jones signed a 3-year deal worth $66 million. $64 million of it was guaranteed. His contract is worth $15.3 million in 2021, $11.5 million in both 22 and 23. So, yeah, there's a lot of money coming towards Julio Jones, and they're going to need to figure out a situation because they can't afford to keep a guy making that kind of money on this roster necessarily. They're going to do their best to try, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, they're in cap hell. Atlanta's in cap hell, and they don't want to trade Julio Jones. It's not like they're like, let's just move on from this guy. Like, we don't really need him. But he's going to save him a lot against the cap. Still, there's going to be a lot of dead money with that. His signing bonus is $5 million each year. The option of $2.75 million each year. So they're just saving the base salary this year is 15.3, and then the next 2 years it's 11.5. So if you're another team, Julio Jones at 11.5 million, that sounds like a lot, but that's actually a really great deal if he's still the same Julio Jones that he's been throughout his career. Like, he's probably going to lose a step. Right now he's going to be 32 this year in the 2021 season. So
has battled injuries,
but he's had some injuries, but like, I feel like the injuries are a little overhyped. Like, he's played a lot of football games throughout the last 5 years. If you look, like, outside of last year, the 4 prior years, I feel like he played like 14 games plus every year. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I've heard, someone wrote an article actually that the Chiefs should just break the NFL and try and trade for Julio Jones, which I was like, that would be entertaining. I'd be surprised if that happened, but that would be super entertaining. I don't think you'll have to, because of the situation that Atlanta's in with their cap situation, I don't think you're going to offer a lot. Like, people are going to be like, oh, you got to give up like a first and like a fourth for Julio Jones. It's not going to be anything like that. Like, they're trying to unload this contract. I don't think they're going to need a lot of compensation in return. Like, it might be a draft pick, like a 3rd round pick. Like, it's not going to be crazy, and it's going to look really good. I've heard for sure 2 teams that are in on it, Baltimore Ravens and Las Vegas Raiders, are 2 teams that I've heard are definitely trying to get in and have talked to Atlanta about it. There's probably more teams that we don't know about. And yeah, I would more than welcome the Chiefs to add Julio Jones to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and now that we got an offensive line that's pretty elite and the best quarterback in football, so let's go. That would be insane.
Don't get too excited.
and just rude.
Don't get too excited.
It would just be
there.
rude for other teams in the division. Like, and well, although now the Chiefs might have to face, as we'll get to, Teddy Bridgewater twice a year. Oh no.
Hey, speaking of, let's before we get to Teddy Bridgewater here, I want to just say that Julio Jones has averaged 95.5 receiving yards per game in his career, by far the most NFL history. Still huge weapon. Jones is the Falcons' career leader in receptions, receiving yards. He has become the fastest receiver to record 12,000 career yards in 2019, hitting that mark in 125 games to surpass all-time great Jerry Rice. He did it in 142 games. In 2020, he became the second fastest to record 800 receptions behind Antonio Brown. He did that in 127 games. Antonio did it in 126. And then he's the 27th player in history to reach that milestone. He has 12,896 career yards heading into the 2021 season. He's accomplished quite a bit, and he's a stud.
I mean, you take out 2020 when he was injured quite a bit. 2019, 1,394 yards. 2018, 1,677. 2017, 1,444. 2016, 1,409. 2015, 1871.
Stud.
2014, 1593. That is insane. Like in those, what is that, 6 years? I guarantee you that was top 5 every year in a wide receiver as far as yardage. So you're getting a guy that still has it. I think he's a stud. He's a Hall of Famer in my book. Like, in my book, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like,
he's on his way.
One of the elite wide receivers that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And there's nothing he can't do on the football field outside of, he doesn't catch a lot of touchdowns. His most touchdowns in those 6 years was like 8. So it's just weird that he doesn't catch more touchdowns with all those yards. But other than that, I just think that's just like a weird coincidence. Like, the dude's a stud. We'll see. I think he gets moved. People are like, no, they won't move him. Like, it's Julio Jones. I think he gets moved. I think he will get traded. It'll be after June 1st, and he'll get moved to where we'll see.
Yeah, it's only, I think, a matter of time. In my opinion, I think he's on his way out. But, man, whoever gets him, if it's Baltimore, I mean, they kind of...
That'd be a waste.
I think Lamar Jackson will have somebody to throw to, and he'll be able to try to get them.
Everyone says that. Lamar Jackson has a first-round pick at wide receiver that he doesn't throw to.
Hey, who knows? Maybe, you have a couple weapons there, and all of a sudden it opens some things up for,
And maybe the problem is he can't throw.
I mean,
I'm sticking to my guns that Lamar Jackson will never, ever win a Super Bowl, and I'm holding firm to that. I think he's overrated. I don't think he's a quarterback that's gonna ever win anything.
I mean, if Julio Jones ends up going to Baltimore and he still can't do those things, then it's rough for him. But speaking of quarterbacks, speaking of division, there was a move today. And it happens to do with the hometown Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos today made a trade. They traded a 6th-round 2021 draft pick for Teddy Bridgewater. And then Carolina's covering some of the costs in the deal. So they're making sure that, it's a little bit more trade-friendly for the Broncos. The Broncos end up having to pay him. At first, I was hearing $3 million, but I think it was like $4.5.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. It's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot
for a quarterback.
And here's the thing. So when this came down, my first reaction was, I was little. I mean, you even reached out to me and you asked me how I felt about it, and I was kind of in a weird place because, all the local radio stations. I immediately tuned in to see what everyone is saying, and everyone is like, "This is the best move. This is the GM is doing a great job, and this and that." And you know what? It's not a bad move, right? It's not, but it's for me. I couldn't jump on board with all the hype that they were throwing around on the radio waves. I guess this doesn't really move the needle for me. It doesn't really not move the needle, it doesn't really not make me think that it's a bad situation, but it's not a great situation. It's like right in the middle of the road, and I don't think it does anything for me to get me excited necessarily. But the deal is so friendly that it's like, okay, well, I mean, you're not paying him. I mean, you get, kickers and punters make, this kind of money, right? So as far as that goes, it's fine. The problem I have with it is he's not a future person for our franchise. You're getting a guy that's maybe a Band-Aid. Here's the thing. If you don't take a quarterback with your top pick now, if you think Bridgewater and Locke are your guys, or if you're going into the season with those two, you've already acknowledged by all this interest you're putting into quarterbacks leading up to the draft that you're not interested in Drew Lock necessarily. And then you have a Band-Aid guy like Teddy Bridgewater who's coming in. He can win games. He's fine. But is he your future? He's not. He's not here to be a long-term solution. So if you don't draft a quarterback in that first pick at 9 or move up or somewhere, you don't get a quarterback, you're going into the season with two guys you don't believe is a future of your team. That's the problem I have with it. If you do draft a quarterback, then is Teddy Bridgewater going to be on the field at all? Is you're paying him $3 to $4 million to just be a veteran in the locker room for two young quarterbacks who you're never going to be playing over because there's going to be too much hype around whoever gets drafted and Drew Lock if Drew Lock happens to be one of the better players on this team. But I don't know. It's kind of confusing for me. I don't know what they're doing. Adam Schefter has come out and said that they're planning on still entertaining a quarterback at the 9th pick or trading up or whatever that looks like. Whoever knows. But that was kind of my initial thoughts. So I guess I'm not blown away by this, but I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just doesn't do anything for me. Deb and chat, if you don't mind, if me do not pick up a quarterback, we're screwed. I
think she's referring to the draft, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I think if we do not pick up a QB, we're screwed.
Oh yeah. So
would be my assumption there.
So that's where I'm at with it. Scotty, what were your thoughts?
I saw it. I got a notification. I laughed. I laughed a lot. I'd heard about this actually. I just don't understand it at all for the Broncos. So what's your end game? So you have Drew Lock, who all right, Teddy Bridgewater's floor is higher than Drew Lock's. Like Teddy Bridgewater of last year was better than Drew Lock of last year. Fine, great. But if we're talking ceiling, Teddy Bridgewater's ceiling is lower than Drew Lock's ceiling. If Drew Lock can take all his traits and figure it out, like he has a higher ceiling, I think. He has more traits, he has more ability than Teddy Bridgewater. So what are you going to do? You're going to have a QB battle. You're going to, which likely, I think actually likely Teddy Bridgewater wins. And then what? You let him play for a year. Best case scenario, what does he do? He goes like, I don't know, they go 9-8, maybe best case 10-7. And then like the guy has played, anytime a team can take on a quarterback who's on his fourth team, you got to do it. Like the guy was drafted like 6 years ago and he's already on his fourth team. I know he's a first round pick. He played for Minnesota. He actually made a playoff game with Minnesota. If you're talking about one of the stats in that game, he was 17 of 24. That looks good for 146 yards. You'll actually remember that game. They lost 10-9 in a game that their kicker missed like a chip shot field goal at the end of the game. So he actually probably should have won the game, but not because of him. I mean, the game ended 10-9. So it was ugly. I mean, I don't know. The Panthers just traded. They didn't like Bridgewater enough that they traded for Sam Darnold, who isn't exactly like God's gift to football so far. Like his record with the Jets was terrible. Like he probably has a higher ceiling, but Bridgewater has played already for Minnesota, New Orleans, Carolina, and now Denver. Like guys that move around like that just aren't someone that you should seek and try and. So I just don't get it from a Denver vantage point. Like, what are you doing? What's your end goal here? Like, all right, he beats out Locke, but he's not going to. Teddy Bridgewater is not going to win you a Super Bowl or make a run in the playoffs for that matter. Like, it's just not going to happen. He's not that kind of player.
Yeah. So
I don't get it. I think it's idiotic. I think it's idiotic.
It sounds like you're in the same kind of boat. You don't like it as much.
Listen, the Broncos didn't have to give up anything, so there's where it's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's kind of a free roll, right? It's not like they made a bad deal to get a quarterback that's not the future. I mean, they're not paying him barely anything. It's just perplexing for me as well. I just don't know. I mean, even if you don't take a quarterback here, you're hoping that Drew Lock is your guy because Teddy Bridgewater isn't the long-term solution. So, you're going into the season hoping that Drew Lock beats out Teddy Bridgewater so that, you can see that there's someone pushing Drew Lock. And then not only that, but maybe there's that mentorship of how to get him, rolling. Now, I know Drew Lock has been working with Peyton Manning. He'll be working under Bridgewater, whatever. But at the same time, I just don't get it. I just don't understand. Even if they draft a quarterback, it's like you have a room of 3 guys that one's would be a rookie and 2 would be 2 guys you don't necessarily believe in at the moment. So there's not a lot of good options. I mean,
I don't think they're taking a quarterback now. I know Adam Schefter came out right after that and was like, this doesn't change anything for them. But by not changing anything for them, I think they were just never planning on taking a quarterback. I think they knew the top 2 were going to be gone. And from what I've heard of, the top 5, which everyone's top 5, the next 3 are Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. I've heard they like one of those 3. But doing this deal now makes me believe they don't think that guy is going to be there for them. It's not Mac Jones. I think, in my opinion, it's actually Trey Lance. Although if you listen to like our local radio, like 104.3, they are all over Justin Fields. I don't think Denver wants Justin Fields, from what I've kind of gathered. I think they want Trey Lance. They might take a flight. If Trey Lance is there, they might pull the trigger. But otherwise, they're gonna. I think Denver, if Trey Lance isn't there, will end up trading back. If there's a partner there, if there's a partner that makes sense. I think they want to trade back.
What's interesting to me is the fact that Carolina has 1 quarterback. They have Sam Darnold. They are picking number 8 ahead of the Broncos. They have nothing else behind Sam Darnold. I mean, I don't know if they've had some discussions when they made this trade on, all right, are you guys going to take a quarterback or not? Because technically, if Carolina wanted to take a quarterback to kind of challenge for that and just kind of stack up a couple young quarterbacks to do the same thing the Broncos would probably be doing with Locke and a young quarterback, I mean, it would kind of be almost a similar situation, but you got to trust that Carolina, they had some conversations of, hey, we'll trade this, but don't take a quarterback, which means I don't think Carolina's taking a quarterback based off of the fact that the Broncos made this trade.
I think Carolina's going to figure out what Darnold is for them. And if that doesn't work, I think once again, they will be all in on Deshaun Watson. And I think Deshaun Watson's going to play. Like, nothing that's about Deshaun Watson. Like, he might have issues this year. Maybe he doesn't play this year. Nothing about what's happened with Deshaun Watson leads me to believe he won't be playing in the NFL ever again. I think Carolina, if Sam Darnold isn't, really, really good, I think they're going to be all in for Deshaun Watson after this year. So at this time, I don't think Carolina takes a quarterback. I think 7, 8, and 9. I think all three of those teams at 7, 8, and 9, with Carolina, Detroit at 7, and then Denver at 9, are all trying to trade back. All of them.
Yeah.
And hoping some people want to move up. For at that point, there's probably 2 quarterbacks left. Who those 2 are for sure, I don't know. But of those top 5, I think 2 are left at 7, and all those teams are trying to move back a little bit, not far, but like to the middle of the first round, and pick up some picks and let these teams move up for quarterbacks that they don't want.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. CP rookie deals, nope. So I think you're referring to what Scotty was just talking about there. But
wait, I actually don't. What does he mean by rookie deals? I'm missing something.
I think we were talking about
CP. What do you mean?
Yeah. Throw us what you mean. I think he was mentioning potentially taking advantage of rookie deal. I don't know, something along those lines. CP, elaborate.
With a quarterback, sure.
Love to hear what you have to say. But we are actually going to be diving in here to our mock draft here in a second. So we're going to go through this and kind of see, all right, one by one, who's going to be slotting in where. Sam and Locke, both on rookie deals.
Yeah, but neither have been extended to. Well, Locke doesn't have his 5th-year option because he was a 2nd-round pick. But I thought I had read, and I'm certain I had read that Sam had been extended through his 5th year. But now I read that he hasn't. That hasn't been official. So it's low risk there, but at the same time, like, I don't know, if they don't get extended right now, like, it's going to cost you more if they play well. So I don't know.
Yeah. It'll be...
I agree, CP. If you're talking low risk with Bridgewater, of course it's low risk because you gave up a 6th-round pick and it's not a lot of money. But the reward, what is the reward? What's the peak reward with Bridgewater as your starting quarterback? Because it's not a long playoff run. Maybe if everything else goes right, you make the playoffs, but you probably don't win a playoff game with it.
It almost reminds me of like the Nuggets of back in the day where they would always be good enough to get in the first round of the playoffs. They would always just get into that 8th seed and then they would get crushed. And then you wouldn't have a good draft pick because you're not in the lottery. And then you're not making anything happen on, the playoffs. So it's like, what you're in this completely like awful cycle of mediocrity that you're never going to get out of. At some point, you just want to be bad to where you get a lottery pick and you can get out of it. And then in another instance, you just want to be, good enough to make a big run in the playoffs so you have something to look forward to every year. This move doesn't do either for the Broncos. It kind of just puts them in that mediocrity of 8-8 or now that we have more games, right?
And what's worse is all reports going into next year's draft is the quarterback draft into next year, which a lot can change in a year, especially at quarterback. But everyone that talks about it says next year's quarterback draft is not good. It's really bad.
Mayday update. Phil's 5'3", bottom 7. Nolan second.
Nolan Yep.
Yeah. Hey, tell us how you feel, Mayday. Tell us how you feel. But hey, we love when Nolan struggles. We know it's fine. We'll take it. CP, the Atlanta dilemma, pick for a tight end. Okay, yeah, that's.
We'll have our mock draft, but I there's nothing wrong with taking that tight end there because he's very, very good. But at the same time, I think there's one quarterback. If he's not taking at 3, I would pull the trigger on it if I were Atlanta. But if the other 2 are the ones left, I wouldn't.
Yep. Well, you know what? What do you say we dive in? What do you say we jump in?
Let's do it.
We have our draft boards ready to go here. So we're going to just cruise in.
Yep. If they can't hear me, they need to. Can't hear you times 2.
Okay.
Can
Can you hear me?
They can hear me.
Okay, you can hear
Can
me
you
there.
hear?
Now, are we good?
Delayed enough that we'll
Delayed?
just have to wait it out for a second. Well, delayed in the when
think-
the chat comes through.
I think give us a go. See if we're good. Sometimes we have a little glitch in our system. Can you guys hear us okay?
Well, the last one was can hear Scott, which is all that really matters.
Usually it's the opposite, and
All right.
okay, we're good.
I guess they can hear you. We're good to go.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the heads up here. By the way, if you're here and you're new to the channel, hit that follow button. Mayday always tells you guys he's our cheerleader in the chat. Hit that follow button. We have a big draft special going on tomorrow. We want as many people there as possible. Now, you know, we're going to be doing live coverage. We're going to be having every pick, every bit of analysis. We're going to have some highlights. We're going to have all sorts of different things going on. We're going to have sound effects. Yeah, you hear that? We got some sound effects. We got some everything. We're going to be pushing out all sorts of stops for you guys. We're going to be on Twitch. We're going to be on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube on all of it. But, you know, make sure that you're here. Make sure you're hitting that follow button, and we will go in depth on everything. It's going to be an extended stream, so hopefully you guys can all join. But to get a nice little taste of everything, we're doing a little bit of mock draft. So, yeah, Mayday, hit that follow button. Have those noties turned on, people. I love it, Mayday. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So, let's dive in. Dive in, Scotty. Now, you have the first pick. And
I got number 1.
And you know what?
In the world,
I know it's a tough choice.
The world thinks the Jags are taking Trevor Lawrence, quarterback Clemson. What I've been reading recently and why I am going to go off script right off the
no.
I tried to build it up a little bit because let's be honest, the Jags have locked in Trevor Lawrence as the number 1 pick since hiring Urban Meyer for sure at the minimum, if not earlier than that. So Trevor Lawrence, number 1, not a lot to think about here. That's an obvious one, as is, I think, number 2. But Trevor Lawrence goes number 1, Jags.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty CP fail. You already failed on the first pick. Not
Okay.
okay. Not okay.
This is, to be clear, this is not, and this is how I'm taking. This is not what we would do. To me, this is what I think the teams will do. This isn't what I would do. I don't know if you've taken it that same way.
Well, we'll see. Because I mean,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You can do what you do. I'm doing what I think the teams will do.
I'm
rather
gonna
than
try
what I
to
think.
stick to that as well. But hey, you never know. I might throw a wrench in there because I might think a little craziness is gonna happen. But by the way, guys, just a heads up, we're not doing trades in this. Which is just what we think these teams are gonna do, staying pat where they are, and who we think they would draft if they stayed put. Because once we get into trades and all this on a mock, especially on here, it gets a little messy and complicated. So we're not going to be doing too many trades here. So we're going to keep it pretty straightforward and just take these picks as they are in order currently. So heads up there. For the second pick, I think this one's a pretty solid, common pick for number 2 as well. I mean, he's the next best quarterback in this draft. Zach Wilson, BYU, is going to be slotting in here at number 2 for the New York Jets. They need a quarterback, and this is a dynamic player that they need to hopefully fill that role for them. So I got Zach Wilson, number 2. Now, here's where the draft begins, Scotty.
Yeah.
The number 3 pick is where the draft begins.
This moves the needle a lot on every other pick behind it.
Yeah, this changes a lot of drafts based off of what San Francisco does. And there's a lot of speculation. San Francisco came out and said, hey, we're interested in 5 quarterbacks at number 3. We're like, okay, yeah. Sure.
Shanahan also said, like, not everyone's guaranteed to be alive on Sunday, which was like, I don't know if he was calling out that something's going to happen. Like, I don't know, like, go into a shelter through the weekend if you have one, because Shanahan was basically saying some natural disaster or some epic event is going to happen this weekend. Because that's what he said when people were asking if Jimmy GQ was still going to be, Jimmy Garoppolo was still going to be on the roster on like next week, and he's like, well, no one's guaranteed to be alive on Sunday. And I'm like, okay, that's not an answer at all. That kind of says maybe not. CP Nix in the chat: Wilson, Jones, Pitts, Sewell, Chase. I'm assuming that's the order he's talking about, but I'm gonna change it up right here. I think
Here we go.
Listen, Mac Jones is the betting favorite. He's the odds-on favorite. But does San Fran really mortgage all these picks and everything they've done to get up to the number 3 spot to take Mac Jones, who very well could have been there where they were picking already? I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't like, if Mac Jones doesn't get picked by the Niners, I don't think he gets taken in the top half of the draft, at least. So for me, I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
Ooh.
And I like Trey Lance. Trey Lance is my number 3 quarterback on my big board. And so I think, honestly, I honestly believe, this isn't just my opinion, I think the Niners are going to surprise people and they're going to take Trey Lance at 3.
Wow. Oh, shaking up the draft already. Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State, San Francisco. Now, yeah, Mac Jones is that guy that's going to be that pivotal. Everyone thinks Mac Jones is going to go 3. It's going to be fascinating to see. Now, I also thought Trey Lance would be the only other option that the Atlanta Falcons would consider outside of Pitts.
I agree.
If you're going Trey Lance here, that makes my decision here a little bit easier. And you know what? I think Kyle Pitts, tight end, Florida, has to be the pick here if Trey Lance goes 3. So they need a tight end. They need some weapons. And, this is one of the best tight ends to come out of college in a long, long time. So, yeah, they're going to be all over it.
We comped him to a Travis Kelce. So, yeah, no, I think they're down to Trey Lance or Kyle Pitts. Even if Trey Lance is on the board, I'd slightly favor Kyle Pitts, but I think it wouldn't shock me if Trey Lance is the pick. But we'll see what happens. Then we move to number 5, Cincinnati Bengals. I think this comes down to 2 players as well, especially if Pitts is gone, which I think by 4 he likely is to be, or by 5, I'm sorry. This comes down to Jamar Chase versus Penei Sewell. So you're either reuniting your Burrow Chase connection that proved to be dynamic the last year in college at LSU, QB to wide receiver, or you're taking the left tackle who will protect that knee that just got operated on. That I don't know if you saw the scar in his knee when they showed off the new uniforms, but that scar was legit. Like they need a left tackle. I love Penei Sewell. I like Jamar Chase. I love them both. I love both these guys. I don't think they could go overly wrong. The reason why I'm going Jamar Chase right here, I'm going Jamar Chase. And the reason why is I think the separation between Jamar Chase and a wide receiver you can get early second is a bigger gap than taking an offensive tackle like Penei Sewell, where I think this is a really good offensive tackle class, actually, you know, as far as separation between early first to early second. So I think they address the offensive tackle position in the second round with their second round pick. And I think they reunite Burrow and Chase, and Jamar Chase is the pick here.
Okay. All right. I like it. Yeah, I mean, when you have players that have played with each other, you know he's banging the drum for a fellow teammate and somebody that he can not only recognize and be familiar with, but have a weapon to throw to, right? Like, I mean, any quarterback's dream is wide receiver that can do some things. Jamar Chase can do some things. So, Miami is on the board here at number 6. Now, okay, so this is I've seen a couple boards. Now, overall, you know, Penei Sewell is still probably one of the better fits, or one of the top picks here in this area, but I'm going to go a little bit different on this one as well. I think they get some more weapons. I think they end up going Devontae Smith, wide receiver, 4 from Alabama here.
Okay.
I think they want to get some weapons down there. They have, you know, a okay quarterback situation that they're satisfied with, but to add a little bit more young talent and to get a Devontae Smith who can be a game changer, I think you have to. I think, you know, Miami ends up going Devontae Smith here.
Okay. This makes my decision at 7 really, really easy. I can put this in immediately. It's going to be Jalen Waddle. No doubt. Jalen Waddle.
Okay.
Can we do a recap show with accuracy of picks? Keep in mind, we'll have our big board as well. Yeah, we can do a recap of accuracy. I think this year is going to be harder than any. You took Devontae Smith. I think, though we ranked Devontae Smith above Jalen Waddle, I think Jalen Waddle goes before Devontae Smith. So you took Smith at 6. I'm taking Waddle at 7. You know, I think Detroit would like to target a wide receiver. And I think Jalen Waddle would be a guy they would love to see there at 7.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, wide receivers are going to be starting to come off the board pretty quick here. So as far as the next pick, Carolina. Now, Carolina obviously just made that big trade for, you know, the quarterback. They got rid of their quarterback. They got someone fresh in there. They're not going to go quarterback in this draft. So now, as far as this goes, they have a couple options. They need some help at corner, like some little defensive back, and then they could also use some help to just keep the quarterback upright. So I was kind of going back and forth between you know, like a Caleb Farley here or a Penei Sewell, and I think at this point, I don't know. I think Penei Sewell, to protect their quarterback that they want to make sure is in a good place, I think you got to go Penei Sewell here, and just he's too big of a stud to drop any further. And this is where he gets pulled off the board by Carolina.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good pick for Carolina. I agree. That would happen if he's there at 8 and Carolina stays there. Number 9.
You get
Denver
the Broncos pick. Here we go.
Broncos.
And again, we're not doing trades, so they're not trading
CP
back.
next. Farley is second round. I think Farley's like a top 10, 15 talent. The medical situation this year without having a combine in one area is hurting Farley, along with some teams I've heard really believe Farley's might need a second surgery on his back. He's got some issues with that, and still hasn't. He got to like announce like he doesn't have full feeling in his toe after one of these, so which is normal, but also concerning at the same time if you're using a first round pick on a guy like that. So I agree that Farley is concerning and may not be a first rounder, although on talent alone he's easily a elite corner in this draft. For Denver though, I think a lot of people, first, all right, Justin Fields is here, so a lot of people would love to see Justin Fields here. I don't think they like Justin Fields that much. I don't think that's their guy. I also think Micah Parsons has been rumored a lot with the Broncos. I don't think, unless they move back, that he'd be the guy. I think if they stayed at 9, which in this situation, maybe they wouldn't, but if they stay at 9, I'm going Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern.
Rashawn Slater.
I think that's the pick.
Okay, offensive tackle.
And I will be right back.
All right, Rashawn Slater. Now that's a surprise pick there. Now, I honestly, man, so this definitely changes things, right? Because Trey Lance, this is why San Francisco's pick is so pivotal, because it really changes everything else. Because I have a feeling with the Denver Broncos, as much as they want a quarterback, their big guy, in my opinion, is Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is at the high end of their board here. But Scotty wants to lock in Rashawn Slater. I may not necessarily agree with that one. But hey, that's what they're working with here. Rashawn Slater. Now, CP, zero chance. Yeah, probably. I think there's a better chance for there's a better chance for them to trade out of that. But given what we're working with here, that's going to be what Scotty thinks is going to happen if they stay.
Wait. Is he saying zero chance for Rashawn Slater?
I believe so.
Because if you go on DraftKings, the top odds for the Broncos pick is in fact Rashawn Slater. So listen, I'm not just going off the cuff here or crazy. Like if you go on DraftKings, I think he's like plus 300 to the Broncos, which is above. That's the most popular pick according to DraftKings. So let's settle down. Listen, I understand the Broncos Nation won't like it, but there's a guy that can step in at right tackle because you can't rely on Juwan James, and maybe move to left tackle because I know Garrett Bowles had a good year last year, but let's be honest, before that, everyone thought he was a bust. So let's see if he can continue that. But I've heard through the guy that I think is most in tune with the Broncos, the source that I trust the most, that Rashawn Slater would be the pick if they stay there. But granted, I think it's almost just as likely that they trade back.
Keeping us updated in the Phillies game. Nolan is up 0 for 3 tonight. Singles, Nolan singles. So looks like he didn't get that 0 for 4 night for Nolan there tonight. So it is what it is. I got Dallas at number 10 though. Dallas at number 10. Now, a lot of people have them taking a corner in this position. They need to bolster their defense, and it seems that there's a lot of people within, sources and different people saying they're going to go big on the secondary. So, with that being said, I think they end up going J.C. Horn on this one. I've seen J.C. Horn being floated out there. Now, Patrick Surtain is still out there. He's the big name, but I think they love the athleticism of J.C. Horn. Big playmaker. I think that Dallas ends up going with Horn.
Yeah. To address both these things, Penix and Justin Fields, if he's available for the Broncos, should be maybe. But what I think will happen, what I've heard and what I'm leaning towards is they don't, like, if Trey Lance is there, they'll strongly consider it. Anyone else, because they know Lawrence and Wilson won't be there. From what I've heard, they don't like Fields or Mac Jones. So if those two guys are there, they're not interested. If Lance is there, they might pull the trigger on that, but they're not likely to trade up and more likely to trade back. I've heard if they trade back, a few names they're interested in is like a Zaven Collins, the linebacker from Tulsa, or Najee Harris, the running back from Alabama, or Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, whatever his name is, from Notre Dame, the hybrid safety linebacker guy we've talked about. So we'll see what happens, but and CP Nixon again in the chat. Jones is 3. Well, he's not 3 until they announce it. So we'll see about that. As far as JC Horn, I don't hate that pick. I think certainly if Dallas stays here, there's been a lot of rumors that Jerry Jones is obsessed with Kyle Pitts and will do everything in his power to trade up for Kyle Pitts. To me, that doesn't make sense. Like, they have a lot of weapons already on offense at the wide receiver. Their tight end isn't great, but wide receiver core is really, really elite. So you have 3 wide receivers that are really, really good. I don't think you need to add more weapons to that. I think they are probably going corner, like you say. I've heard they're basically split between J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain II as far as who they like more in their room. If they don't go corner, the only other position I think they should take is, like, if Rashawn Slater or something like that is still there, like a left tackle, because their injuries have been pretty significant on the offensive line through the years, especially last year. So moving on to number 11, we have the New York Giants. I think the New York Giants, if one of those top 3 wide receivers were there, might pull the trigger on that. I think they're still looking for wide receiver health. I think they're basically like, all right, let's give Daniel Jones all the weapons we can and see what he can do. Obviously, he's getting back a pretty good running back this year. That tore his ACL early on last year. But overall, I actually think the Giants, if they don't go offense, if those wide receivers aren't there, those top 3, it's early to take any other wide receiver here. So I'm actually going to take my favorite edge on the draft board. I can't even see him on the list on the right, but I'm taking Kwity Paye out of Michigan. My favorite edge.
Okay.
Yep. And I've heard they might be interested in taking an edge. So
Kwity Paye. Yeah. No, I've seen. I mean, those New York has had a few teams in the past that have had some really solid edge rushers that they want to get that back in line, right? So, Kwity Paye, edge, 12, right there at 11 with New York. Mayday, I will. So first of all, I know who I think I would take here for your Philadelphia Eagles if I were in this spot. But Mayday, let me know who, based off of who's available, who would you say you would like? Throw it in the chat. For me, and Scotty, I don't know. Do we let Mayday pick his own teams? Do we let him go for it?
Fire away, Mayday.
And then
Mac Jones, CP next. Do you just love Mac Jones or do you hate Mac Jones? I don't know. He said the CSU wide receiver is average. He doesn't even know his name. Michael Gallup is his name for the Cowboys, and he's not average. And if you're talking about him as the number 3 wide receiver, he's the best number 3 wide receiver in the NFL for a team, because they obviously have Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. That the top 3 wide receiving core for the Cowboys is better than any wide receiving core in the league.
Mayday, you make my job easy. You make it easy because that's who I was going to take here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Patrick Surtain, amazing corner, need a solid corner like that. Yeah, I think that's where they will go if he's available at this point. Of course, the Eagles would also like a top wide receiver, but a top corner on the other side of Darius Slay, it's not a bad situation to have for your defense. So I am in agreement here. This is who I would have taken in this spot. Patrick Surtain, the second for Philadelphia, to bolster that secondary a little bit further.
Yeah, no, I like that pick. I think certainly they go wide receiver or corner if they stay in their draft slot. Like, those are the two options for Philadelphia right now. As far as the Los Angeles Chargers at 13, everything I've heard and everything reported, it sounds like they're continuing to bolster that offensive line, and they want to make sure they're protecting that number one pick from last year that played so well in Justin Herbert. So what I see them taking is it's down to whether you're taking an offensive tackle in Christian Darrisaw or a guard in Elijah Vera Tucker. Back and forth here, but I think they're going to lean offensive tackle, and I think they take Christian Darrisaw with the number 13 pick, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech.
Okay, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech. Wait, who did you have? Sorry.
Darrisaw, Christian Darrisaw.
Yep.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, no, he's a solid pick there. I think that, I think that could see him going. Anytime you could bolster an offensive line for a quarterback like what the Chargers have in San Diego, man, you're doing some good things there. All right, so Minnesota.
We do have some debate in the chat where all of a sudden people will have to stay off the weed.
We got okay.
Lock better than Hurts. Listen, that's like fighting over, like, I don't know, my shit versus yours. Like, which shit is better? Like, let's be honest, neither of those guys need to be a starting quarterback in the league. So it doesn't matter. Don't fight over that because both of your quarterbacks are garbage.
Well, there you have it. Just putting them out there right then and there, huh? Okay, so 14. So I've seen a couple mock drafts. From what I can tell, Vikings need to upgrade their line as well. They need some versatility. They need someone to slot in here that's going to be a big difference maker here. Now, I'm going back and forth. I'm trying to figure out. I've seen a couple draft boards with who I think everyone is picking for them, and I don't know. I think I'm kind of back and forth, but oh man, I don't know. From what I've seen, they really like Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman.
Yep.
So from that standpoint, I think they end up going with him. Let me see if I could find him, actually. Elijah Vera Tucker, USC. I think they end up going with him. This is a big spot for them. They need extra help there, and he can provide that versatility there to provide some, really good push up front, but also just protection for the quarterback. Oh,
it's ironic in the chat we have CP Nixon and Mayday going at it, talking about, like, now they've brought up Mahomes. Like, Mahomes played like Hurts in the Super Bowl, and Mahomes QBR is like Goff's in the Super Bowl. Let's keep in mind, Mahomes has played 3 seasons. He's made an AFC Championship game and then won a Super Bowl and then lost in a Super Bowl. Your team quarterbacks are Drew Lock and Jalen Hurts.
You guys can team up on Scotty all you want. You can do whatever
you
need.
want to say, but you would take Mahomes in a heartbeat. So just stop it. Just stop embarrassing yourself by trying to throw Mahomes under a bus as if he had anyone blocking for him that game. He ran in the backfield for like 400 yards that game, which was like an NFL high last year. Like he had no one blocking for him. But guess what? We got blockers now. Guess who can just turn over an offensive line that's dog shit into a really, really good offensive line in one offseason? The Chiefs GM Brett Veach. He does work. All right. Don't hate because your GM picks up Teddy Bridgewater for no reason at all, or you really, really like to believe in Jalen Hurts, who can't throw the football. Let's be honest.
I love the fact that, CP and Mayday were like, battling it out, and all of a sudden it shifted so fast to be on the same team. And I love it. I love how quickly that shifted. That was amazing.
Wait, Mayday, he's going to get hurt next year. Wait, who's going to get hurt? Because the Chiefs offensive line is really, really solid next year. Like, there's nothing to fear there. I don't think you're talking about Mahomes. CP Nixon, I wanted to stop watching Super Bowl at the pre-show. Yeah, it wasn't great. And in fact, I was with you, CP Nix, so how dare you?
I loved the pre-show with Miley Cyrus. It was actually pretty entertaining.
All right, let's move back to this draft.
Let's move on. 15. We got the New England Patriots.
15.
Now, this would be a dream scenario for the New England Patriots, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'm gonna, and a lot of people will assume that I'm taking a certain quarterback, probably CP next, but no, I'm going Justin Fields. I'm going Justin Fields here. I think obviously they need a quarterback. They're desperate for a quarterback. I think Justin Fields is a guy that has a little more upside and a little more to play with than Mac Jones. Way higher on my big board than Mac Jones is. And I think they address that and they fill the need with Justin Fields.
Okay. Yeah. No, they have to go and get something there as far as, Justin Fields. He is, I think, one of the better picks for them at that point if they're able to get him there. So, that's a big pickup. If they have their choice between Justin Fields or Mac Jones, I think they end up going there. But hey, that's a good situation to be in if you are the New England Patriots. All right, so now we have some more in chat. Get your tissues out because it's going to be a bad year for the Chiefs. At least we don't lose to the Raiders.
I mean, let's be honest. At minimum, the Chiefs are making the Super Bowl again. Like, that's just going to happen. And it's really weird to flex that they lost to the Raiders, which they beat them again later in the year. But I mean, I don't know. They've made the Super Bowl the last 2 years and lost in the overtime of the AFC Championship game the year before. So, Mayday, why bring this up? It's only going to bring pain. Your Eagles are going to be really, really bad this year. Let's just be honest. Let's start there.
Can we all just be friends? Let's all be friends.
And you're going in with Jalen Hurts as your quarterback with a defense that isn't that good. You're losing. It sounds like Hurts is still there, but they want to trade him, but they haven't traded him yet. And your wide receiving core, like Jalen Reagor, was a mistake clearly with a first-round pick last year. So you're in a really bad shape, Mayday. So you don't hate me. Hate your team, okay? It's not my fault your team is bad.
And CP, I miss Mike Mayock. There you go.
Is that just for judging the draft? Because we're doing great. And Mike Mayock's a disaster with the Raiders. But we're here at 16. You go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. No, we're good. We're good. I think the Arizona Cardinals, this is going to be an interesting one. Now, this could go a couple different ways. I've seen a couple pick, corners if they drop, like a Patrick Surtain if it makes it to them. I could see them going a couple different ways there. But edge rusher is going to be one that I think could benefit them the most. And I've seen a couple different mock drafts. I've seen also them taking corners. I think, one of them had him taking a corner, Greg Newsome, and then edge was another one. Now, I like Greg Newsome here too. As far as filling out some of that back end, Newsome will also benefit from learning from the likes of like a Malcolm Butler and a Robert Alford, as well as Budda Baker. That's just a lot of depth there. I think they have, some different options that they can fill in. I almost think they end up going edge in this one. And I've seen some draft boards where they really like Gregory Rousseau. Now, even though he might not be one of the higher edge rushers on the board, that's what I've seen in some mock drafts. But you know what? I think,
Who you going with?
Oh man, I think they end up just taking the best edge rusher off the board. I think it is Ojulari.
Ojulari. Okay.
I think they go Ojulari. I think they pull him off the board. I think they get there, and I think they They already have an okay secondary. If they could get pressure on the quarterback, that's going to be a big win for anybody for Arizona. There, they already have a decent. Yeah.
You combine that with Chandler Jones, and obviously they picked up J.J. Watt in the offseason. That's a formidable group there.
That is.
P. Nixon in the chat. If the Broncos go into the season with Locke and Teddy as their QBs, they're committing to being mediocre at best. Shaking my fucking head, I believe is what the F says there. Sorry, Mayday. Pardon the language. I don't disagree with that. It does not make sense to me what Bridgewater does for you. Like, Bridgewater's not, I don't get it. I don't understand the deal. I'd rather just, and if it's to motivate Locke, everything I've heard about Locke is that he actually studies tape really hard and he works really hard in the off season and like manufacturing that. So it's not like you're just like, it's a lack of work ethic with Locke. He needs to just stop throwing to the wrong team is his issue, which Bridgewater doesn't do. So if that's what you're looking for, fine. But Bridgewater's ceiling is very, very low. So I don't get it. I don't know why it's happening. I laughed when it happened. I immediately said, haha, they are so dumb. So that's my feelings on it. Moving on. Number 17. Speaking of dumb, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. I actually think this scenario for the Raiders is a dream scenario, and they'd probably mess it up. But if I'm the Raiders here, you need a lot of defensive help. Their defense was a train wreck last year. Really, really bad. You could use help on all three levels, whether it's defensive line, linebacker, or secondary. But to me here, helping out with a linebacker that can really, cover some of the linebackers in the division, especially Kelsey, and maybe if you're a first rounder, Noah Fant can figure it out. I'm going Micah Parsons. I think at 17, that's really, really good value. I think that's a really, really good pick for the Raiders. If he's not there, I think they go like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and I don't like him near as much. So
Detroit Trent.
If this board goes the way it does.
Detroit Trent, welcome to the channel, man. Welcome to the Action Lab. What's going on? Having a good time doing this mock draft. We have a big draft special tomorrow. We're going to be going live for all of the picks tomorrow. Live coverage, so hope you're there. Most Raiders think to do is take Shaun Wade at 17. Yeah, no.
Detroit Trent. I saw on Twitter, it was my boy Matt Miller, who ironically, my buddy was in the KC airport at the same time as Matt Miller, and I had him go get a picture with him. But Matt Miller is an NFL draft scout. Like, not an actual NFL draft scout, but he does work for ESPN, used to be with Bleacher Report. He said he had a bad dream that the Raiders took Shaun Wade in the first round. So, yeah. No, I'm right there with you.
All right, so you got Micah Parsons at 17.
Micah Parsons is a good value. Real good for that's like the Raiders won't take him at 17 because that's too smart of a pick for them if he's there.
Are you sure they're not going to take a fast wide receiver, the fastest wide receiver in the draft at that pick?
I mean, if Waddle's there, they'll take him for sure. But there's not. If there was another elite speed guy, I'd say yeah, but there just isn't.
Yeah. All right. So I got let's see, Miami here. I got Miami here at 18. Now, let me see. I think Miami, they're kind of in the hunt for a little bit of an edge rusher as well. I feel like every time I make a pick, they're like the team I'm looking at is going edge on this one. But as far as Miami goes, there's a couple guys that I feel like could fit there. I've seen some mock drafts and I've seen some experts say that Jalen Phillips there, but there's also some other guys ahead of the trend here. I mean, you got two Miami guys, Rousseau and Phillips out of Florida. So, you get a lot of eyes. You get sometimes you those hometown boys. You get a little bit more love when it comes to those teams that are seeing them more frequently. I think Owe is a very decent pick here for them, but I'm gonna mix things up a little bit. I'm gonna say they end up going. Oof. I think they end up going Jalen Phillips. I think they reach.
Okay.
I think they reach on Jalen Phillips.
I don't think that's a reach if Jalen Phillips is healthy. Obviously, he had concussion issues at UCLA. Basically announced his retirement from football until he re-signed and went to Miami for a year. Detroit in the chat, got to be one of the worst years for edge. Where'd you have Pay going? I agree. I agree in the sense there's no surefire elite easy edge in this pick, but there's a lot of pretty solid. I think there's a decent amount that'll go late first, early second as far as edges. Partly because that's just such an important position. We had Kwity Paye. I took Kwity Paye actually at 11 with the Giants. That's where we had Kwity Paye going, as you see on the screen there. I think I'd be very, very surprised if he's not the first edge gone. And I think 11, unless one of those top three wide receivers between Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Jamar Chase are there for the Giants, I think they go more edge, and I think Kwity Paye is the best edge in this draft. And I think actually, Mayday, if Kwity Paye is there at what is it? What are the Eagles at, 13 or 14? That they take Kwity Paye. I think they think he's a Brandon Graham clone. So here we are, though. Washington football team, number 19 pick in the draft. They had a really, really solid defense last year, so you'd think you need some help on the offensive side of the football, but I don't know if there's a ton of value on the offensive side unless they really, really want to gamble and go on a running back like Najee Harris or Travis Etienne. But I wouldn't do that here. I would just continue to build up where I think they might be a little weaker. They have two good edge rushers with Sweat and Young on the edge. Their secondary is pretty solid. I go after the linebacking core, and a guy that I'm a little lower on, but what I've heard recently is this guy is a late teens, which I never saw until recently, pick, and very, very popular in a team. I've heard the Broncos really, really love this guy, is Zaven Collins, linebacker at Tulsa. So I'm taking Zaven Collins here.
Zaven Collins, we talked about him in our top 5 linebackers. Great player when it comes to being able to solidify your defense. Yeah, that's a great pick there. By the way, guys, again, if you're here, we have the big draft special. Hit that follow button if you're here. We would love to have you tomorrow, and we will make sure you have those notifications turned on so that when we go live. We're going to be starting around 5:30 Mountain Time, between 5 and 5:30 Mountain Time. So make sure you hit that follow button. We'd love to have more of you guys in the lab and get those notifications. So thank you so much. Detroit, Trent, got to be one of the worst years for Edge. Yeah, we got. Can't believe Skins hired Mayhew. Gives me PTSD from his days with the Lions. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Not a ton. I mean, he was senior director under Matt Millen, so they drafted wide receiver for about 8 years in a row. Didn't work out. We'll see what happens. I won't get into maybe why they picked him. I'll leave that alone. But that's where they're at. We'll see if he's different than Matt Millen and shouldn't be associated with Matt Millen and the Lions pick from back in the day.
Yep. Absolutely. So, as far as the Chicago Bears on the clock. Now, with this, they need some help at offensive line. They have a glaring hole at right tackle. I think this is a great spot for them to take an offensive lineman. Now, I think that Tevin Jenkins is their pick here. They really like what he brings. I think I've seen him, in a couple different conversations with the Chicago Bears and how they like what he has to bring to the table. So offensive tackle, Oklahoma State, Tevin Jenkins goes to the Chicago Bears.
I'm mad that you took that pick. I like Tevin a lot. And he would have fit really well. The Colts have a really good offensive line, but just lost the left tackle to retirement. So I was ready to take Tevin right there at 21. Thought you might pull the trigger on Mac Jones at 20. I mean, the Bears have Andy Dalton at quarterback.
That's
so
true. That's true.
They need a guy. I thought you might pull the trigger on Mac Jones, but you didn't. So here we are, Indianapolis Colts. I think now there's not necessarily an offensive tackle I love here at 21 now that Tevin Jenkins is off, who I actually like a little more than Christian Darrisaw. He would be my number 3 tackle, despite the fact that I picked Darrisaw for the Chargers earlier. My preference is Tevin Jenkins. He's a dog, especially if you put him at right tackle. Like, he's the best run blocking tackle in the draft, and he will work his ass off to block for you. So regardless of that, Colts at 21. Justin Houston has been there on the edge for the last couple years. Haven't re-signed him. I think he's still a free agent last I heard, but he's not with the Colts currently. So I think maybe the Colts go edge. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the trigger on a guy on the edge that we've maybe thought about, an athletic freak that I like a lot. Jason Oweh.
Okay, Jason Oweh. Let's see. Hold on one second. Sorry. All right. Jason Oweh.
They don't like him on PFN.
There we
32.
go. We have him on edge there. Yeah, he's 32nd here left on our list. Jason Oweh, Penn State.
Detroit in the chat. Mayfield is really solid. I assume you're talking about Jalen Mayfield, offensive tackle from Michigan. He's a good pass blocker, not super athletic and not real strong against the run. Like, not a guy that will just grade over people. But if you're looking for a straight up pass blocker, like Jalen Mayfield performed really well at Michigan, we'll see where he drops. I'd be surprised if he's a first round guy, but certainly a second round pick.
All right, so we got Tennessee here. Tennessee, they are in the works for probably a wide receiver. Wide receiver is a big need over there, and I think that they'll probably use that pick to fill that need. Now, there's a couple wide receivers that have been kind of linked to Tennessee. Rashad Bateman is the top wide receiver still on the board at this moment. But I've also seen a couple other wide receivers that have been on that list as well. And Elijah Moore is one of them. Elijah Moore is a guy they really like. I think that that's going to be a pick that I've seen a few people really getting excited about in the Tennessee camp. So just giving A.J. Brown some help. They already have Jonnu Smith, wide receiver Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis left. So reuniting more with, Elijah Moore, who is A.J. Brown's old college teammate. I think he's vouching for his old teammate there. I think they go Elijah Moore, and they solidify their wide receiving core.
Okay. I could see that. They need a replacement for some guys they lost this offseason. They also need a lot of help on defense, so I could see them going either way, honestly. Detroit in the chat, you think Farley drops out of the first with his back issues? I lean towards yes. I actually do. I've heard there are a lot of teams out there that actually think in medicals, like we talked about this a little bit earlier, medicals are a little different this year because of not having the combine like they normally do. But Farley, I've heard a lot of teams think he needs another surgery before he can play again. So that eliminates him from probably playing his first year. So, and who knows, back issues are dangerous thing to play with, especially with a first round pick, regardless of how talented he is. Because on talent alone, like I mentioned earlier, he's a top 15 guy in this draft. But I think he drops. I think he does not get picked in the first round. Moving on, 23 in the JETS Jets. I'm trying to figure out this board.
Let me refresh to overall.
Yeah,
Mac Jones still on there. We got some big names on here. Yeah.
I'm trying to look at my board, see what's there, what makes sense. If I'm the Jets, I'm debating between a guy I've heard is way more popular than what I value him at, which is another linebacker, which is Jamin Davis from Kentucky, or they take a corner, a guy like Greg Newsome. I could also see them going wide receiver, but I don't know if they're going to love a guy. Maybe a Rashad Bateman here. I like some guys here. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna follow my board for them. I'm gonna take Greg Newsome. I'm gonna take a corner, Northwestern. I think Greg Newsome's a very, very solid player, and we ranked him just behind Caleb Farley in our big board, but with Caleb Farley's injury stuff, I think Greg Newsome separates himself from any other corner in this draft moving forward. There's more of a gap there after this, unless you believe Caleb Farley's going to be healthy. So I'll take Greg Newsome there.
Okay. Greg Newsome off the board, cornerback, Northwestern. All right, that puts Pittsburgh on the board. And from all indications, from what I've been hearing, it sounds like a lot of people within the Pittsburgh camp or even just some sources around Pittsburgh have them either, depending on whether or not they're taking a top offensive lineman. If there's nothing there, I think they end up pushing towards maybe a running back. And this is where maybe the run on running backs starts. You got a couple guys here on this list, and I think that this would be a great spot, for them to pick a running back. Now, Detroit, Trent, Mac Jones to Pitt would be fun. Yeah, now, they do have an aging quarterback there, which actually would make sense if they wanted to go like a Mac Jones here. Again, Ben Roethlisberger isn't getting any younger, so that makes a lot of sense. I think Detroit, you're really, that actually opened up my eyes to a little bit here, that I wasn't actually thinking about that until you mentioned it. That's why we have you in chat, and that's why I love it. But I still think, as tempting as it would be there, I still think they go running back, and the top running back on the board is Najee Harris. This is what a lot of people expect them to go with if there's no offensive lineman on the board, because they do need to fix that offensive line, but they need an upgrade, and they need to get something going there in that running game, and they don't have a lot of depth there. James Conner is not a very durable guy. He's constantly hurt, so having a guy that can fill in there, I think, is in their best interests. I think they go Najee Harris.
All right. Yeah, you keep bypassing on Mac Jones. I would have, if I'm the Bears, I would have thrown that trigger out at 20. If I'm the Steelers, I'd probably throw that out at 24. We'll see what you do at 28. There's a team there, maybe. Not to hint at you, but 25, Jacksonville. Obviously, you got Trevor Lawrence with the #1 overall pick. So you're good at quarterback. A lot of other holes on that team all across the board. So they're probably mostly talking best player available. For me, I'm going to pull the trigger on like a defensive player, athletic guy. You can kind of mix and match and move across the field. We've talked about him before. And I regret that I'm going to have to say this name again, but I'm going to take Joker. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from Notre Dame, the hybrid linebacker safety guy that we've talked about. I think he plays a little more safety unless he bulks up and picks up more size. He's just too small right now to play linebacker in the NFL, but he's kind of like, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank on Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker safety hybrid that got drafted in the top 10 by Arizona last year. Athletic guy, can play all over, can blitz. Taking a guy that maybe is BPA right there, best player available. A guy that I think teams value a little more than some of the media.
Yeah.
So we'll see. What's going on in the chat? We got some action. Pitt's running back room is young too.
Oh yeah, I forgot Connor went to Arizona.
Yeah, no, I think Pitt's targeting a running back for sure. Actually, I think they're taking one. Maybe not in the first round if their guy's not there, but we'll see what happens.
By the way, Detroit Trent, thank you for the follow. Love to have you part of the Action Lab. Can't wait to see you back on all these future streams. Love it. If you're here, hit that follow button. Follow that lead right there by Trent. All right. Anyone see the Sixers won?
Do they win by 1 or by 40? Mayday, I'm confused.
Let's all right, we got the Cleveland Browns on the clock here. Mm-hmm. Now, they're going to most likely I feel like they're going to go defense here. They need to solidify their defense up. They already have a pretty decent defense, but I think they're going to just add to that. And let's see. I don't even know who's. Let's look what we got here. Yeah, we have a couple guys that we were talking about this past week at linebacker for the who's available here. Defensive tackle, edge. I think they end up. I'm kind of leaning towards linebacker, and I think. Let's see. If I'm thinking they go with anything, I would say, oh man, I think they end up going linebacker. And actually, I would have probably taken them I would have taken Jeremiah if he would have dropped here to this pick. So I think I'm going to probably take the next best here. I almost think they end up going either Davis or Browning. I think they may lean towards maybe a Jamin Davis, and just pick up somebody there that can help them on the linebacking core.
Okay. I don't mind that athleticism at the linebacking core. Detroit, Trent in the chat, Barmore for the Browns. That wouldn't surprise me either. I think this is right in the range of where Barmore is going to go, the D tackle out of Alabama. like him too, especially in a D tackle class that's, in my opinion, like too deep. And then everyone else is kind of just like a guy. This is like the worst defensive tackle class I think I've ever seen. There's just not a lot of three techniques that can get out of the quarterback. Barmore can provide that a little bit, along with, in my opinion, Levi Onwuzurike. I can't say his last name, out of Washington. Some of these guys just need to help me out with their names a little bit, like Smith or Jones or Jackson. But anyway, yeah, I like that Davis pick. Let's see. Now we got the Baltimore. Baltimore has 2 picks coming up at 27 and 31. I get to pick both those. Obviously, they traded with the Chiefs to get that 31st pick and Orlando Brown.
So let's go ahead, lock them in. What? Give us a second. I think we might have glitched out here for us. Give me 1 second.